Max Verstappen throwing a tantrum in Spain, the likes of which we haven't seen in a little while, and just a little while, I mean, genuinely. We haven't seen something like this from Max really since, I would say, Hungary last year. Not quite the performance that I think that Max Verstappen was hoping to display, but getting into a major incident with the Mercedes of George Russell late on in the Grand Prix. He'd been complaining all day about the car's drivability while trying to chase down the McLarens ahead. And following a late safety car, Max was put into the hard tires, the only tires apparently that Red Bull reportedly had left. Excuse me. Max lost P3 to Charles Leclerc after losing rear grip coming out of the final corner on the safety car restart, and tried fighting off George Russell for a couple laps, drove into the runoff, and came out ahead of Russell, who had position right alongside in turns 1 through 2. And 1 lap later, Red Bull ordering Max to relinquish the position to George Russell to avoid any potential penalties. And from there, it just, well, that's where we got back into the incident. Max basically dove deep into, I want to say, I can't remember exactly which turn that was. I want to say that might have been turn 6 or 7. But they basically dive bombed right into the Mercedes. Could very well have DNF'd both of the cars for both drivers, but didn't do so. Luckily, both cars were able to at least finish the race, but tempers flaring. And Max, if I'm not mistaken, not even completing the post-race out lap, drove directly into the pits. In the post-race interviews, I saw a cut-up between George Russell and Max Verstappen. Max was kind of citing his grip. George was completely clueless as to what the hell Max was even trying to do there. Tempers were flaring. I think Max probably had plenty of control. I think that he, his temper got the best of him. The intrusive thoughts it just kind of got to Max Verstappen after having a really frustrating day. But overall, a very immature move from a multiple-time world drivers champion, a guy who's been there, done that, who's had to relinquish positions before, whether, excited to do so or otherwise. It's part of the sport. It's part of the game. And Max basically just kind of put himself on display as, very temperamental, which we're not surprised to see, as very immature in this moment. And once again, just probably letting those intrusive thoughts win. But I think that the penalties that came along for Max Verstappen were more than deserved. It was a terrible decision. Could have very well taken out George Russell. This was to the point where the FIA handed Max 3 penalty points, which alongside the 10-second penalty, which landed him in P10, by the way. At the moment, he now sits at 11 of the 12 for the 12-month period. So that basically means that next time out in Canada, if Max Verstappen were to receive another penalty point, he would be forced to miss a race. And I get it. Tempers are flaring. It's a frustrating day. You don't feel like the car is quite underneath you, but all in all, Max was not that far away from the McLarens, even when he was being competitive on the podium. I understand that he's trying to chase this World Drivers' Championship, but losing it out to Charles and complaining about how that went down after him jumping into Charles Leclerc, by the way, who was making a very clean overtake. And then later on in that, the next lap and a half, running directly into George Russell. It's a terrible look. It looks incredibly immature once again. And Max Verstappen knows that he needs to be better than that. And I think the expectation should absolutely be higher. It should be raised. And with all of those separate incidents, it's no question why those 3 penalty points were doled out so clear-cut, so directly, and so quickly. We got this report within hours after the race, by the way. So Max Verstappen, overall, in a nutshell, just got to be better. Just got to be better.